Liam had spent weeks carefully manipulating the team, planting seeds of doubt and turning colleagues against Harper. Every suggestion he whispered, every rumor he let slip, was calculated to make her look indecisive, weak, and unfit for command. His ultimate goal was clear: weaken Harper's credibility so he could influence the appointment of his friends into positions of power. The team, unknowingly, became instruments of his plan, following subtle cues and bending protocols in ways that favored him. He smiled quietly to himself, believing the pieces were falling exactly where he wanted. Harper, meanwhile, moved silently through the base, observing, listening, but never revealing how much she understood. Then, in a moment that changed everything, Harper caught a fragment of one of Liam's conversations in the meeting room, a casual discussion with his operators, coded in half-truths and manipulative suggestions. The realization hit her instantly. Liam wasn't just ambitious, he was dangerous, willing to sacrifice the mission and manipulate everyone around him for personal gain. Without hesitation, she declared the operation compromised, throwing his meticulous plan into chaos. Liam froze, shocked that Harper had seen through him so quickly, that his control over the team had been undone in a single decisive move. In that instant, Harper understood the true nature of Liam's ambition and began to craft a careful, intelligent plan for revenge that would ensure he could never exploit others again. The stage was set for a confrontation neither would forget, and the question became, how far would Harper go to expose the truth? How deep did Liam's deception really go? But before we continue, take a moment to subscribe to the channel. Now, let's understand how this story really began. The bass breathed in patterns, predictable, disciplined. Boots struck non-skid flooring with muted rhythm. Somewhere beyond the concrete walls, rotors chopped the air into even slices. Near the arms room, metal rang as a clearing barrel swallowed another chambered round. Nothing about the morning suggested rupture. Captain Harper Reyes moved through the corridor with the economy of someone who had learned long ago that wasted motion got people hurt. At 50, her posture was still straight, her gait measured, shoulders level beneath a pressed utility uniform that showed no adornment beyond what was required. Her expression remained neutral, but her jaw tightened once just a fraction when she noticed a door ajar that was usually sealed. It closed again as she passed, the sound barely audible, but she filed it away. Outside the main briefing room, she slowed. Voices leaked through the door, low but confident. One name cut cleanly through the hum of the HVAC, her name. Lieutenant Liam Kessler stood at the head of the table inside, laser pointer resting against the edge like a conductor's baton. At 38, he wore confidence, easy smile, relaxed shoulders, the posture of a man who expected agreement before he spoke. His eyes, however, stayed sharp, tracking reactions rather than sharing information. "We document the concerns," Liam said, voice even. "We get it on the record that she's pushing an unvalidated target package." The laser tapped once against the table, plastic on wood. Final. Then the OPSO has to recommend relief. After that, the acting lead will need to be someone the group can trust. A chair shifted. The squeak was small, but loud in the pause that followed. A chief gave a thin chuckle that didn't reach his chest. Another operator stared at his folded hands, thumb rubbing over a callus as if it needed sanding down. Liam leaned forward, lowering his voice. "And nobody mentions the crypto delay. Comms can catch up. We move." Outside, Harper's fingers tightened around the folder she carried. The manila edge bent inward under controlled pressure. Her breathing didn't change. A vein surfaced at her temple, pulsing slow and steady, as if keeping time. She stepped into the room. Silence fell, not dramatic, not loud. It landed heavy. Mouths closed, eyes shifted away from hers. Liam's smile froze mid-expression, pupils narrowing as if his body had reacted before his mind could catch up. Harper walked to the table and set the folder down. She did it slowly, deliberately, aligning the edges with the grain of the wood. "Operation Night Lantern is compromised," she said. Her voice carried no heat, no rise, effective immediately. It scrubbed. "Lock down communications. No one leaves this building until I say so." For half a second, nobody moved. Liam blinked, once, twice. His lips parted. "Ma'am," he said. The word sharpened just enough to signal resistance. "With respect, you can't." Harper looked at him. Flat, cold. Watch me. Chairs scraped back, boots hit the floor. Confusion rippled, some irritation, a few faces showing relief they hadn't expected to feel. Liam's right eyelid twitched a fast, involuntary flutter. Panic leaked through before he smoothed it over, shoulders settling back into place. Harper saw it. She always saw it. As she turned toward the door, she knew this wasn't just ego or ambition. You didn't delay crypto by accident. You didn't talk about trust while hiding process violations behind routing slips. Whatever Liam had set in motion had weight behind it and inertia. The door closed softly behind her. Overhead lights hummed. She reached into her pocket, pulled out a secure phone she almost never used, and dialed a number committed to memory rather than contacts. The line connected on the first ring. Harper didn't introduce herself. "We have an internal compromise," she said, "and I need you now." Within minutes, the bass shifted without spectacle. There were no klaxons, no shouted orders, just resistance introduced at every seam. To duty master at arms sealed exterior access points, metal doors closing with hydraulic patience. The SCIF status board flipped to restricted entry. Radios across the compound tightened into clip transmissions, voices stripped of excess, ComSec check. No fail items, account for all personnel. Friction, deliberate and controlled. Harper stood in the command office with the ops chief and the senior enlisted advisor. The door was closed. Her voice stayed low, pitched to die before it reached the hallway. "Nobody talks, nobody texts. If you already sent messages about the op, you report it now." She didn't stare, she scanned. A swallow that came too late, a blink held half a beat too long. One hand circling a wedding band, faster than habit, skin whitening beneath the pressure. She logged each reaction without judgment, the way she logged terrain features data. Not emotion. A knock broke the quiet. The corpsman stepped in, eyes wide, breath shallow, shoulders lifted as if bracing. "Ma'am, NCIS is at the gate." Harper didn't move. "I called them." The temperature in the room dropped. No one said it out loud, but the thought landed hard. Outsiders. Federal agents. Paper trails that didn't disappear. The ops chief's jaw flexed once. The senior enlisted advisor exhaled through his nose, slow and controlled. A heartbeat later, Liam appeared in the doorway. His posture was perfect, spine straight, hands loose at his sides, shoulders relaxed as if he'd practiced calm in front of a mirror. "NCIS?" he asked. Polite, reasonable, his throat shifted as he swallowed. "That's extreme, Captain," Harper answered without raising her voice. "A compromised operation gets people killed. We're not debating." Her eyes stayed on him, measuring. His mouth tightened for half a second, an involuntary clamp, then smoothed. The mask went back on. Time stretched. An hour passed under fluorescent lights that hummed without concern. Then the first knife slid in. A junior admin clerk entered carrying a thin file, cheeks flushed, breath unsteady. "Captain Ray, sir, ma'am." This was delivered to the group commander's office. The paper trembled between her fingers. Inside was a printed memorandum. Allegations laid out in formal language. Violations of operational risk management, bypassed approvals, failure to update threat assessments, reliance on unverified human. The formatting was correct. Routing marks align. The signature block was positioned to make senior leadership pause, to invite doubt before defense. Stapled behind it was a photograph, grainy, shot through a narrow gap. Harper alone in the SCIF after hours, bent over a laptop. Harmless in truth, dangerous in implication. Her face didn't change, but cold crept into her fingers, numbing the pads as they held the paper. She didn't need to look up to feel it, the subtle shift in the room, attention tilting, trust loosening at the edges. Liam exhaled, slow, controlled, the sound of a man carrying bad news. "Ma'am, if you need me to brief the group." Harper lifted one hand. He stopped. She didn't look at him. "No." She slid the memo back into the folder. Already dissecting it, this wasn't rumor. This was fabrication with a chain of custody problem. Someone had access to internal routing. Someone knew camera angles. When she finally met Liam's eyes, his expression was concern shaped to fit policy. Professional, supportive. At the corner of his mouth, a tremor flickered quick, almost gone. Satisfaction restrained to late. Her voice dropped. "Everybody stays on base tonight." Liam's eyebrows rose. "Ma'am, we have families." On base, Harper repeated, each word cut clean. Nobody goes home until we find who's trying to bury this team. As she handed the memo to the NCIS agent, his focus sharpened not on her, but on a single rooting detail that didn't belong. He leaned in, voice barely audible, Captain. This came from inside your own secure spaces. The NCIS counterintelligence agent did not fit the myths people carried about federal investigators. No tailored suit, no practice charm. He wore a plain jacket that had seen to many offices and to many late nights. His eyes were rimmed red, the kind of tired that came from reading lies for a living. His hands handled classified paper with care, fingertips lifting edges slowly, as if the ink itself might bite. If this is an internal compromise, he said, voice flat, we do a canary. Harper didn't hesitate, she gave a single nod. We feed different versions. By midnight, the SCIF was lit only by task lights and monitor glow. Harper and the agent worked without wasted motion, building 3 separate target update packets. Each was structurally identical, same headers, same operational logic, same threat framing, but each carried a microscopic deviation. One listed an overwater infiltration at 0200, another detailed an NH-60 insertion at 0130, the third referenced a ground convoy staged at a different gate entirely. None of the changes altered planning integrity, all of them altered attribution. Each packet was logged, tagged, and released into a different circle of trust. Harper delivered one herself. She found Liam in the corridor outside the team room, fluorescent light flattening color, footsteps echoing faintly off concrete. She didn't block his path. She didn't slow him down. She simply stepped alongside him and extended the folder. No accusation, no warning. Liam took it with 2 fingers, casual, as if accepting a menu. You're still running the op? He asked, voice low, almost friendly. Harper watched his forearm as he moved. The muscle didn't jump, no tremor, no hitch in his breathing. He was steady, disciplined. Good. We're running an op, she said. But not the one you think. His expression held, but his nostrils flared, just once. A quick intake he didn't intend to show. Understood, ma'am. He walked away without looking back. Harper didn't follow his face. She tracked his shadow sliding along the wall long, smooth, unhurried. A shadow that assumed it belonged there. 2 hours later, the sergeant tech entered the SCIF with a printout clutched too tightly. His skin had gone pale beneath the fluorescent wash. Captain, we picked up chatter. Harper leaned in. The translated intercept sat clean on the page, no ambiguity, no inference. It referenced the exact infiltration time, the exact method. Word forward from Liam's packet, not close. Not guessed, confirmed. Something settled behind Harper's ribs, dense and immovable. It wasn't fear, it wasn't relief, it was weight, the kind that came with certainty. The agent spoke without looking at her. Lee confirmed, now we prove intent. Harper straightened, her eyes lifted, sharp. And we do it without tipping him. Through the reinforced glass, down the corridor, Liam stood at a vending machine with 2 operators. He laughed softly at something one of them said, shoulder relaxing, posture open. He looked easy, familiar, like a man exactly where he belonged. Harper watched without being seen and understood the true threat. Liam wasn't just leaking data. He was shaping narrative, building insulation. When things went wrong and they would blame would fall where he'd already pointed. The agent's phone vibrated. He checked the screen, jaw tightening. When he looked up, the tiredness in his eyes had sharpened into focus. Captain, he said, voice lower now. There's been a movement, order filed under your name. Wheels up in 6 hours. Harper's pulse didn't change, her breathing stayed even. Only her eyes narrowed. To where? The agent swallowed once before answering. To the infiltration route from Liam's packet. Harper moved with speed that didn't advertise itself. There was no raised voice, no door kicked open, no display of rank meant to dominate a room. She used a secure handset and precision instead. First the group commander encrypted, clipped, confirmation receipt. Then the air boss, no discussion, just acknowledgement. Then the senior enlisted, overseeing movement control. Each call was delivered like a scalpel cut, clean, deliberate, impossible to misunderstand. No aircraft launches until my personal code-word is given, she said. Her voice stayed even, but the line went quiet on the other end, the kind of silence that meant the order had landed. Any attempt to override is logged, names, times. At 0430, the base still half asleep, Harper entered the medical clinic. The lights were dimmed to night cycle levels, casting long shadows along stainless steel counters. The flight surgeon was already there, sleeves rolled, eyes rimmed with fatigue. The senior corpsman stood nearby, posture rigid, hands clasped too tightly in front of him. Both men had seen what bad orders looked like when they came back on litters. Harper didn't soften her tone. She didn't need to. "I need the casualty summary from the last deployment," she said. "The one with the compromised exfil." The corpsman hesitated, his jaw flexed. For a moment, his gaze fixed on a spot just over Harper's shoulder, then he reached for a folder and slid it across the counter. His fingers lingered a fraction longer than necessary before letting go. His throat worked, a dry swallow that betrayed what the paper represented. Inside was a photograph Harper hadn't allowed herself to see in years. A stretcher coated in dust, a tourniquet darkened past usefulness. A hand extended upward, fingers curled as if trying to grasp something that had already slipped away. A name. Harper's chest didn't rise sharply. Her breath didn't hitch, only her fingers paused on the edge of the page, still, as though the weight of the image had increased without warning. The flight surgeon spoke quietly, choosing his words with care. "That exfil route was changed last minute. It wasn't on the original Froggo." Harper looked up, her eyes were steady. "Who changed it?" The surgeon's gaze flicked toward the doorway, then back. His mouth tightened before he answered. "It came down through ops. Signed by Lieutenant Kessler, on behalf of command." Heat crept up the back of Harper's neck, slow and deliberate, not surprise recognition. Liam hadn't improvised this, he'd refined it. Learned how to hide intent behind procedure, how to turn routing slips and delegated authority into weapons. In the corridor outside the gear cages, she found him inspecting a ruck, checking straps, fingers moving with practiced familiarity. He looked up as she approached and offered a polite smile, the kind designed to disarm. She didn't return it, she leaned in just enough that he had to listen. Her voice was almost gentle. "How many times have you done this, Liam?" For the briefest instant, his smile slipped. "Ma'am." She didn't blink. "Signed on behalf of command, changed routes. Controlled where blame landed, promoted your friends." His eyes hardened, irritation flashing through the practiced calm. "That's a serious accusation." Her face stayed flat, but her gaze sharpened. "So is murder, and I'm done being polite." He stepped closer, dropping his voice. "Careful, Captain, if you swing and miss, you'll be the one relieved." Harper watched the pulse jump once in his neck fast, then reined back under control. She turned away without answering. Anger wouldn't catch him, evidence would, appetite would. As she walked back toward the SCIF, her secure phone vibrated. One message, an unfamiliar number. 4 words glowed on the screen: "Stop digging, or else." Harper never mentioned and the message to the team. Threats were a currency, and men like Liam spent them to feel powerful. She forwarded the text to NCIS through a secure channel, annotated with timestamps and metadata, then locked the phone away. Her face didn't change. The calm stayed in place, deliberate, practiced another tool on her belt. At 1100 hours, she ordered what looked like a routine training evolution on the range. Live fire, bounding drills, nothing that would raise a flag in the movement log. Operators filter in wearing plate carriers, eye protection already smudged with fingerprints, helmets hanging loose in crooks of elbows. Low voices traded dry remarks, not humor exactly, just the familiar verbal static professionals used to keep their breathing even. Liam positioned himself off to the side, arms folded across his chest. His posture was relaxed, but his eyes tracked Harper with an intensity that didn't blink often enough. When she caught the look, he nodded once, polite. She didn't return it. Harper took the safety brief herself. Her voice carried evenly across the concrete and dirt, clipped and precise. For rules, medical coverage, hot and cold lines. As she spoke, her gaze never settled. It skimmed the perimeter fencing, the gravel access road, the tree line beyond the berm. A gate hung half-latched, chain slack, near the trees. A shape stood too still, weight balanced wrong for a range safety officer. Sunlight flashed once metallic, gone almost before her brain named it. She raised her hand. The team stopped mid-motion, bolts locked back, muzzles down. No one questioned it. Harper's eyes went to the range. "Oh, I see. Ceasefire. Lock bolts. Heads down." The words were barely out when the air split. A supersonic cracked her overhead, sharp enough to punch the breath out of lungs. Not downrange, wrong angle. Dirt burst near the concrete barrier as a second round struck. This wasn't negligence. This wasn't an accident. Someone had set an ambush inside a controlled perimeter. Harper moved before adrenaline coat. She seized the nearest operator by the plate carrier and drove him behind cover, her grip bruising. Her radio came up in the same motion. "Contact. Contact unknown shooter range complex Q or F now." Her voice stayed level, but her jaw locked hard enough to ache. The team returned fire in short, disciplined bursts, muzzle rise controlled, sectors covered. No panic, just work. Base security flooded in within seconds, vehicles skidding to hard stops. The shooter broke contact and disappeared into the trees, leaving a drop bag half buried in churned dirt. Harper knelt and opened it. Inside lay a folded map of the range complex, crease 10 marked. Her position was circled in red, precise to the meter. Clipped to the paper was an access badge, Liam's. She looked up. Liam was already talking, words tumbling too fast, hands open in a rehearsed appeal. "Mom, my badge was stolen. This is exactly what I warned about. Someone's framing me." His face had gone pale beneath the tan. A pulse jumped once at his throat before he forced it still. Harper felt something cold settle behind her sternum, the pieces aligned without effort. This wasn't about evaluations or routing slips anymore. He'd crossed from paper to rounds. She handed the bag to NCIS without breaking eye contact. Then, leaning just close enough that only he could hear, she said quietly, "You just made my job easier." That night, alone in a dim office, Harper scrubbed through base CCTV. Time codes crawled past until one frame stopped her cold. The image showed Liam in the SIF hallway at 0217 hours, a classified pouch in his hand, one he was not signed out to carry. Her fingers stilled on the keyboard, her breathing did not change. Harper did not take the footage to Liam. She denied him the oxygen of confrontation, the chance to rehearse outrage or sculpt a lie in real time. Instead, she widened her aperture, the way she'd been trained. Reconnaissance before contact, facts before fire. NCIS pulled access logs from the secure network, timestamps cross-referenced against badge swipes and CCTV metadata. The ComSec custodian audited crypto key distribution, hands steady but jaw tight as he verified serials and issue times. In the armory, an inventory check went line by line, serial numbers read aloud and echoed back, the metallic click of racks opening and closing filling the space like a metronome. It slowed everything down. People complained in low voices. Harper let them. Friction was preferable to blind momentum. In the SIF, under lights that flattened color and mercy alike, an NCIS agent set a file on the table. He didn't slide it toward her. He placed it carefully, as if weight mattered. "We ran Liam's financials through approved channels," he said. His eyes flicked once to the door before returning to Harper. "There are payments, structured, small enough to avoid flags. A contractor, shell company, foreign ties." Harper's gaze dropped to the page. Her mouth stayed neutral, but the muscle at her jawline tightened, a thin cord pulling taut. "Defense contractor, front," the agent said. "Procurement fraud, maybe, or something worse." The implication settled like pressure in her ears. This wasn't just ambition, it was commerce. Access converted to currency, mission planning leverage for profit. The room didn't spin, it narrowed, lines sharpened. Later, in the corridor, Harper caught two senior operators speaking low in a corner. One turned away when she approached, pretending to study, notice board. The other nodded, a gesture practiced enough to pass as respect. She stopped anyway. "Say it," she said. The operator swallowed. His jaw worked once, then again. "Ma'am, some of the guys think you're burning the team to save yourself." Harper took it in without heat. She'd seen this pattern before, trust eroded by suggestion until truth sounded like vanity. She nodded once, understood. She changed tactics. She called the entire team into a closed-door session. No cameras, no recorders, just faces and air. She stood centered, hands relaxed at her sides. "I'm not asking for your faith," she said. Her voice didn't rise, it didn't soften. I'm asking for your discipline. Until this is done, you follow orders and you log everything. Dates, times, names. We fight with facts. Some shoulders eased. Others stayed squared. In the back, Liam stood loose, weight on one foot, expression neutral. Only a faint tick at his eyelid betrayed irritation and an involuntary flicker, and she refused to fracture. Afterward, Harper returned to her office. A manila envelope rested on her chair. No name, no routing slip. She didn't rush. She closed the door, then opened it. Inside was a single sheet, a photocopy of a reassignment order. Capped Harper Rays, relieved for cause effective immediately. The signature line was blank. At the bottom, handwritten in black ink, "You can't stop the machine." Her breathing stayed measured. She folded the paper once, precisely, and placed it into evidence. The realization settled without drama. Liam had cover or fear working on his behalf. She picked up the secure phone and dialed the group commander's legal advisor. If he wanted to win with process, she would end him with process clean, documented, undeniable. As she spoke to Jack, the base alarm chirped once. A single tone reserved for one thing, a weapon missing from the armory. The alert hadn't finished echoing before Harper understood the shape of it. Missing weapons were never random. Chaos created noise, noise created cover. And cover created opportunity for a man who hid behind procedure. She went straight to the armory. The master at arms walked beside her, radio pressed tight to his shoulder, his replies reduced to clipped syllables. Inside, the armorer's hands moved too fast over the racks, eyes too wide, breath shallow enough to fog the cold air. Harper didn't ask questions yet. She watched, the way fingers hesitated, the way a swallow came too late. The inventory confirmed it. One suppressed rifle gone. The digital log showed it signed out under Harper's credentials, timestamp clean, authorization code valid at first glance. Forged, but expertly, the kind of forgery built by someone who knew the system from the inside. Liam's intent crystallized. If a shot happened anywhere, her name would be welded to it before the echoes faded. Harper turned to NCIS. Her voice stayed low. "We end this tonight." They built the sting with speed and restraint. No grand briefings, no extra bodies. Harper authored a fourth target packet, a complete fabrication designed to seduce greed and impatience. A high-value mission, a narrow window, a call sign chain that promised access. Buried inside was a unique digital marker, silent, invisible, waiting to surface the moment the file was copied, transmitted, or photographed. After the meeting, Harper left the packet on the briefing table. Deliberately careless, she didn't glance back. Her pulse stayed even, but a tightness settled beneath her ribs, the part of her that understood how little margin existed between control and catastrophe. Cameras watched the hallway, access logs watched the SIF. NCIS moved like ghosts, present only in data. At 2312, the marker triggered. Someone had copied the file. 2 minutes later, a low-power transmission pinged a cell tower just beyond the base perimeter. Short burst, encrypted traffic, careful, but not careful enough. At 2316, Liam's badge cleared the exit gate. Harper stood in the security office, the glow of monitors washing her face pale. On screen, Liam sat in his vehicle, posture loose, one hand steady on the wheel, the other held a phone low by his thigh. His mouth moved as he spoke, measured, unhurried, like a man placing an order he expected to be filled. NCIS units rolled, unmarked, silent. Then Liam didn't do what she expected. He didn't drive away. He stopped near the motor pool, in a stretch where light died and blind spots lived. He stepped out. A second shape peeled from the shadows to meet him. Not an operator, not base security, a civilian, hoodie up, hands buried deep. Harper's fingers tightened against the edge of the desk. She watched Liam pass something over, small, rectangular. A phone or a data device. The civilian returned a padded envelope. The exchange was quick, practiced, proof. Liam turned to sharply, head lifting as if he felt the weight of eyes. He looked toward the camera's general direction, not directly close enough to unsettle. His jaw set. He raised a hand to his ear, touching an earpiece Harper hadn't known existed. His lips formed a single word, clean even through the thin audio feed. Now, the security monitors flickered, then they went black. The moment the cameras went dark, the base didn't descend into chaos. It shifted quietly in to control the emergency. Backup generators hummed to life, steel doors locked with muted clacks. Patrols moved on foot, radios reduced to hand signals and whispered brevity. The kind of response that only came from rehearsal and discipline. Harper moved through the dark without hurry. Her steps were measured, shoulders loose, breathing steady. She didn't reach for a long gun, she reached for the evidence bag. If Liam wanted to drown the night in confusion, she would anchor it with the one thing he couldn't shoot his way out of chain of custody. The corridor outside the SCAF smelled faintly of ozone and dust. Emergency lights threw long shadows along the walls. A door clicked somewhere behind her to soft, to deliberate. Harper stopped mid-step. Her head tilted a fraction, listening past the hum of power rerouting. Fabric brushing concrete, a weight shift that came a second too slow. Breath held too long. She flattened against the wall, sidearm coming up smoothly, elbow tucked. She waited. The figure burst from cover. Harper pivoted, driving the muzzle forward, stopping the breath short of contact. Her offhand snapped to the attacker's wrist, twisting just enough to strip leverage without shattering it. A grunt escaped him high. Panicked, a suppressed shot cracked the air, wrong and intimate. The round buried itself in the wall inches from Harper's shoulder, spitting plaster into her hair. She didn't flinch. Harper dumped her weight, knee pinning the forearm, the rifle trapped against the deck. She tore the hood back, not Liam. A junior support tech stared up at her, eyes blown wide, hands shaking so hard the weapon rattled. Too young, too scared, upon holding a rifle that didn't belong to him. Harper's voice stayed low, controlled. "Who gave you the weapon?" His lips quivered. A tear cut a clean line through the dust on his cheek, he said. "He said you were going to ruin all of us," he whispered. He said it had to look real. Something tightened behind Harper's sternum, not pity, but a cold, precise anger at the manipulation. She secured him, cleared the weapon, called it in with clipped coordinates. Then she moved, because Liam wouldn't stop with one piece on the board. She found him near the motor pool, by the stacked connexes where light fell in hard angles. Backup illumination carved his face into planes of shadow and pale calm. He looked offended more than surprised, like a man interrupted mid-sentence. "Captain," Liam said smoothly, "this is getting out of hand." Harper held her pistol low, finger indexed, muzzle down. "Control, you killed cameras. You moved a suppressed weapon. You put a scared kid on a trigger inside the wire." Liam's eyelid twitched, just once. "You don't have proof." She lifted the evidence bag a few inches. "Not a threat. A reminder. I have more than you think." His mouth curved into a thin smile. "Then you know you can't run an operation with a fractured team. They'll choose me. They already have." Harper searched his face. There was no remorse there, no doubt, just calculation layer over confidence. She keyed her radio. "Package is moving. Initiate Phase 2. Liam's smile stalled. "Phase 2? She stepped closer, close enough to see the pulse jump once at his throat. "The part where you realize you've been leaking to the wrong people." Voices emerged from the darkness behind him, measured, authoritative, NCIS, base security. And one presence that shifted the air entirely, the group commander. Liam turned slowly. And in that turn, Harper saw the first unguarded flash of fear, sharp and unmistakable. Because the civilian he'd met wasn't a beer, he was an undercover federal agent. And the padded envelope still in Liam's pocket held marked bills and a sealed warrant. The commander's voice cut clean through the night. "Lieutenant Kessler, you are relieved. Do not move." Liam's hand drifted toward his waistband anyway. Liam didn't go for a weapon, he went for his pocket. The movement was sharp, unpolished, nothing like the careful economy he'd worn all night. His hand came up with a flash drive, clenched white knuckle, and he hurled it toward the storm drain with the kind of panic that stripped pretense away. Harper moved before thought finished forming. She holstered as she ran, boots tearing gravel loose, momentum carrying her into a slide that burned through her knees. Her arm shot out, fingers closed around plastic just as it kissed the lip of the drain. Cold, solid, real. She rolled, came up on one knee, flash drive locked in her fist like it mattered more than bone. Behind her, the night collapsed inward on Liam. NCIS and base security hit him hard and clean, driving him face first into the ground. Zip ties snapped tight around his wrists. His breath came ragged now, chest hammering, the controlled cadence finally gone. He twisted his head just enough to look at Harper. The mask was gone. What remained burned hot. "You think this makes you a hero?" he spat, dirt clinging to his cheek. "You just killed Night Lantern. You'll never get the target now." Harper stood slowly. Dust streaked her knees. Her grip never loosened. "We were never running your Night Lantern," she said. She crossed to the group commander and placed the flash drive into his open palm. "No ceremony, just precision, sir. Chain of custody starts now." They moved into the SIF under emergency lighting. Red and dim, shadows pulled long across concrete. Digital forensics began immediately. Gloved hands, lob serials, timestamps called out and recorded. Screens came alive, capture software running, every keystroke tracked. The drive opened like a wound, mission overlays bloomed across the monitors, routes, infill times. Exfil contingencies, not one operation many. Communications followed, threaded through encrypted channels to a foreign intermediary. Payment schedules, account numbers, and then a name. One Harper recognized instantly from a classified HVT list. Her jaw set, barely perceptible. Liam hadn't compromised a raid. He'd sold the playbook. The group commander leaned closer to the screen, his face hardening, eyes narrowing until they were almost slits. He didn't raise his voice when he spoke. "Captain Reyes, can you still hit the target tonight?" Harper didn't answer him with confidence, she answered with preparation. She pulled up a separate folder, one that hadn't existed in any of Liam's packets. The real plan, built quietly over days, different infill, different timing. Reduced electronic signature, manual nave where possible. A stripped-down roster only operators she trusted, plus a counterintelligence element to exploit whatever followed. No theatrics, just work, the team assembled without prompting. Gear checks were crisp, hands tightened straps. Eyes met briefly, then moved on. No one spoke. In the aircraft, Harper sat upright, spine straight, eyes forward. The cabin vibrated around them. Across from her, one operator watched her closely. The earlier doubt still lived in the set of his mouth, the tension in his jaw. Harper didn't call it out. She met his gaze once and gave a small, almost invisible nod. "We do the job." Rudder wash swallowed the base as they lifted, light shrinking beneath them until there was only darkness and motion. Mid-flight, the comms tech leaned in close, voice pitched low against the nose. "Ma'am, enemy chatter just spiked. They're talking about an ambush on our route." Harper's eyes sharpened. "They shouldn't have our route." A beat later, the pilot's voice cut in, controlled but tight. "Captain, we're seeing heat signatures ahead. Multiple. Exactly on your projected LZ." Something constricted in Harper's chest, not panic, but the cold recognition of a pattern refusing to die. Even with Liam restrained, something was still moving, some part of the machine still turning. She keyed her mic, her voice didn't change. "Aboard LZ, shift to contingency Bravo, low and fast." The aircraft banked, engines adjusting, the world tilting into black. And as the mission slid sideways into darkness, Harper understood the worst truth of all. Liam might be captured, but his network was still alive. The aircraft touched down at contingency Bravo just as the first light of pre-dawn began to pale the sky. Harper moved down the ramp, boots crisp against the metal, eyes sweeping the perimeter before any operator had time to breathe. The original LZ lay behind them, scorched with muzzle flashes frozen in the night, a tomb for what might have been. Harper didn't flinch. The weight of discipline and preparation settled into her spine, sharper than any fear, steadier than any adrenaline. Her lead element advanced, weapons trained, eyes calculating. Breaching charges went down with mechanical precision, doors giving way to trained pressure points. The HVT moved instinctively, but Harper's operators were already there blocking exits, guiding civilians away with authoritative voices, controlled but unyielding. Every command was precise, every gesture rehearsed. "Hands, show your hands." Each word measured, each action predictable only to the disciplined eye. The target paused, reading the field, seeing no chaos to exploit. There was no panic, no nose beyond the rhythm of execution. Zip ties clicked against wrists. Evidence bags opened, contents cataloged, scanned, logged. A laptop powered down, recorded, and sealed. A medic, gloves pristine, checked vital signs, documenting every beat according to protocol, because professionalism never paused for theater. Harper moved among them, scanning, noting, absorbing the microdetails, the twitch of an eye, the subtle tilt of a shoulder, the clenched jaw of someone who had questioned her and now found certainty. Back at the base, legal processes unfurled like a precision-engineered machine. JAG officers drafted charges under the UCMJ with an efficiency that mirrored Harper's own methods. Article 929,292 for dereliction. Article 107,107,107 for false official statements. Article 130 for 1,130 for 1,130 for conduct prejudicial to good order, and additional federal charges flagged through NCIS for espionage-related activity. Every piece of evidence, every timestamp, every log from cameras, access badges, and digital markers was chained with surgical accuracy. The flash drive alone, cataloged and verified, was enough to tilt the scale. But Harper had layered redundancy into every step. There would be no he said, she said, no ambiguous lines to muddy the truth. Liam sat across from her in a small interview room. His wrists were bound, the stiff posture of a manipulator replaced with the subtle shakes of a man who had counted on narrative, not fact. His tailored suit had been replaced with the blank monotony, the detainee uniform, erasing symbols of rank, power, and comfort. He leaned forward, eyes flashing, the twitch of his eyelid faster now, metronomic but unraveling. "They'll forget this, Captain," he said low, venom and resignation mixing. "They'll remember you as the commander who tore her own team apart." Harper remained still, shoulders squared, hands relaxed at her sides. Triumph was irrelevant. Clarity was everything. "I didn't tear them apart," she said. "I caught the person who did." His jaw flexed, lip curling slightly. "You think they'll trust you again?" Her eyes didn't waver. "They don't need to trust my feelings. They need to trust my decisions." In the corridor, her team waited. Eyes shifted from suspicion to acknowledgement. Some faces carried shame, others relief, all watching the quiet calculus of authority. The older chief stepped forward, face hard, throat working. "Ma'am, we were wrong," he admitted, voice rough with the effort of swallowing pride. Harper nodded once, not indulgent, just accepting, then be right from here on out. In the following weeks, the machinery of justice and discipline ground forward. Harper's formal exoneration arrived with documentation clear, uncompromising, leaving no room for interpretation. The fabricated memo became an exhibit, the attempted framing became a charge, the missing weapon, traced, documented, and logged, became a case study in conspiracy. Emails and payments traced the network of complicit operators. Each was quietly interviewed, quietly relieved, quietly held accountable. One cold morning, beneath a pale sky, the group commander handed Harper a folded letter. Inside was official confirmation. She retained command, commended for decisive action under internal threat conditions. Harper didn't smile. Her eyes softened imperceptibly, like a weight lifted without fanfare. Back in the team space, the room went quiet. Not fearful silence, not brittle politeness, quiet respect. Harper stopped in the center, eyes scanning each face once. "We're not here to be liked," she said, voice even, measured. "We're here to be lethal, lawful, and honest. That's the standard." She turned toward the door, ready for the next mission. A junior operator caught up. "Ma'am, one question." Harper paused, eyes flicking back. "How did you know it was Liam before you had proof?" he asked, voice careful, tentative. Harper's eyes narrowed, tracing the memory of the briefing room conversation, the cryptic movements, the hunger behind the calm, the first spark of intuition that separated calculation from malice. "Because real leaders worrying about the team," she said softly. "He only worried about the story he could tell after." And somewhere behind locked doors, evidence logs, and signed chains of custody, Liam learned what Harper had understood from the beginning. In a quiet professional unit, the cleanest revenge isn't shouted in triumph, it's the truth. Documented, undeniable, delivered with discipline, and left to stand on its own. If you want to see more high-stakes, tactical operations unfold with precision, don't forget to subscribe to the channel for the next mission.